membership should be in January, that we should move all of the Mays up to January. But then you think, well, how hard is it to get people to join in November, December to get applicants? I think it's a little harder because of the holiday periods and all those kinds of things. It's probably easier to advertise than to get somebody to come on in May. So maybe that the year should start the 1st of June, people being appointed in May, and that's staggered on a 3-year basis. I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm offering up for discussion. Is it really that important? Probably not. I mean, we have 3 great folks that are on the slate right now. But anyway, just to clean this thing up and to make it so that
sometimes there's a gap in the approval because some of these have to go to city council, then they have to go to the county commissioners of the various governments that are involved, and sometimes that gets drawn out. So I guess just listening to what you're saying, if I had druthers, I would say let's try to get everybody on a January term, because they're going to start proposing people somewhere in June or July or August, and it just takes time to get through the bureaucracy. So I think we can clean it up, but the more immediate problem is how, given the bylaws, can we straighten out the mess that we have right now, which is the May people, and get them adjusted to a January setting so that we're all a January, and 1/3 each January would be leaving or be reinstated or wherever you are in your terms. And is that going to take a change in the bylaws to do that? I mean, we're out of
sync.
I don't know.
I can tell you.
Moving the term.
Want me to tell you?
Yes, please.
So, years ago, our bylaws have not been revised in a very long time. And years ago, this committee was not very well staffed. We had very few representatives on it. And so there was a big push to solicit membership and engagement from the community. So we had all these new members come on at one time. And we did not have that shift where 1/3, the cycle where 1/3 would be renewed at a time. That's how that happened.
But how did the May thing come about?
The May thing came about because we had random expiration terms. So very random, so random that it was hard for us administratively to keep up with it. So we actually went to the board of directors and requested that everyone in the first 6 months of the year be moved to May, and everyone in the second half of the year who had term expirations in the second half of the year be moved to November, so that we could handle it better administratively.
So what we have is 6 different periods. We have 3 November 30th and 3 May 31st.
But it is a good, I was just talking with Rachel, I do think that it's a good time it'll take some doing, but it's a good time to revisit our bylaws, clean them up, take care of any discrepancies, and address the membership issues.
I think this is my last meeting in this position.
Are you
But,
volunteering?
No, I'm not volunteering. I would suggest that we could approach the board and tell them what we want to do, but we just have to have a plan down that we would like to move with the May members' consent, move their maturity date of their term to January. If you think January is a good time, because it would be easier to manage a third if we all have a common term date or termination date, if you will. But, I just think somebody ought to be thinking about that and make a little spiel to the board that would, it sounds like the bylaws need a revision anyway, and maybe you can take it, it's not a crisis right now, but we ought to get it done in the first quarter of the year so that it is straightened out for going forward. Because we aren't worried about it now until May, 31st? May 30th. So if we get it in the first quarter and get the bylaws revised in that period of time, just get it all done at once. Because it's a problem.
Yeah, and I would just keep in mind that it takes us about 4 months to get people either
Approved.
a new representative or someone even reappointed. It takes
Yeah.
4 months.
It does.
Time we cycle through the whole process.
So that means if you bring a person up before one of the councils or whatever, how long has it taken for Woodland Park to get this to us? I mean, it's probably been 3 months, hasn't it? Easily. Ray's been coming to some of our meetings, and he hasn't been approved. So can you kind of follow up on this?
We could do it. We can do just a group, a subgroup, a small task force to do the revisions, get everybody's input to the revisions, and then I don't think it's going to be a real timely thing. It's not like they're very lengthy, so I don't think it's going to take a lot.
Maybe one of our new officers takes the chair of that, and then I would be happy to participate in it.
Okay.
I would like to offer help there too. The
May change my
neighborhoods have the
mind.
same issue. And so we've gapped it like the city council does. If you come in for less than a certain time period, that doesn't count against you. You're still in a billet until the official announcement date, right?
Okay. So, Vince, and an officer yet to be named. Michelle, you'd like to be involved? Okay.
Anybody else that wants to be involved, that's a good size.
And I think, Rachel, you'd automatically be involved.
Friends will get you anywhere.
Yeah, Al?
We November people feel like we've been thrown away.
I'm a November person.
You're in the minority.
We are.
Well, I think your gain might be getting an extra 2 months, actually.
Yeah, you might.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Vince, for bringing that up. I think we went through this once before when Jason was in Rachel's position. I think we had similar problems then. So let's cure it, get it behind us. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for November 18th? Second. Any discussion? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, none.
Abstain.
Abstain?
Was not present.
You weren't there. December Board of Directors report. Jim and I were both at that meeting, and they had an executive session which lasted a half hour longer than they thought. And so I was there for some of the meeting. Jim was there for the whole meeting. So he shared some of his notes with me. And I'll just go through it as quickly as I can. There was only one action item on that agenda, and it was to form a new policy committee and initiate a joint land use study. And the board approved that committee, and it is to be comprised of leaders of governmental agencies, supported by a technical committee like a TAC, and issue working groups. So that I think is looking at the whole MPO and looking at the needs for land use studies. Report items at that meeting were CDOT report by Mark Andrews from Region 2. He reported on wrapping up the Old Ranch Road situation, and that it is open and operating aside from a water main that broke, according to the TV, right? Fillmore North Bridge is nearing completion, and optimistically, he would say end of spring completion for the diverging diamond interchange there. I think that probably depends a lot on weather. Cimarron work now is very evident if you drive by that. Large mounds of fill dirt, tanks have been removed, contaminated water dealing has been dealt with. Power lines are a big issue in that whole interchange, but that is being dealt with. Lots of work will be done in off-peak hours in the months upcoming. They're nearly finished with prep on the west side of I-25, and traffic flow will switch on the southbound I-25 sometime in the spring of 2016. I-25 at Nevada and Rockrimmon, the soil compression issue, if any of you drive that frequently, you will notice when you come off of bridge abutments or whatever, there's your card goes down about 3 feet. I'm exaggerating, but that will be dealt with, and there's a study has been advertised a year out, so it's not going to improve dramatically real fast. So that's what's happening. Craig, am I right in that?
Yes.
Is that okay?
And it's actually been fixed twice before, and it just keeps pressing.
Then I-25, 6 lanes from Monument to Castle Rock. What is the label of the planning study that is going to go on? What is that called?
Say again?
That planning study that is going to go on for 6 lanes from Monument to Castle Rock?
It's a managed lane study.
Okay.
Planning environmental links
So,
to managed lanes.
that is in the offing. The military installations report, many thank yous for community support during Veterans Day celebrations. Thank you for the widening of powers. It's a big deal for troops and, of course, BRAC discussions. Water Quality Management Committee, there was no quorum, so no report. They did say that Rich Muzzey's replacement is advertised for. Ken Prather is filling in right now until that replacement is found. Information items, Kate Hatton briefed on the Peak Military Care Network. She reported a 93% increase in website visits in 2015 over 2014. She addressed a question of homeless camps near Hartselle. A significant part of that population may be veterans. Peak Military Care Network seeks to address the issue before the individuals are in crisis. I'll tell you, if you lived out on the plains up there in Hartselle, you'd be in crisis anyway, I think. It'd just be bad. Impact. Stephanie Finley reported on this 13-member coalition. Priority issues for them are air service to our community, military needs, transportation, cyber needs, innovation, health care, including veterans, and the aging population. Communication, Rachel briefed on legislative issues. A revised website is looking at posting up to 2 years of archived documents if users' needs so dictate. Do you want to talk about the website right now?
I would love to talk about the website.
Okay.
I couldn't remember if I talked about this last time, so thank you. You've all been very patient as we have gone through a number of technical issues, and I apologize. I know you've had a number of inconveniences when we've had to send packets to you through Dropbox or you've had some broken links, but I'm really happy to show you our new website. Thank you for that, whoever that was. Erica Hunter, our webmaster, who is hiding in the back, has been working really hard to redesign the site according to our user study survey that we did a while back. A number of you participated. And sorry, we're having a menu problem there. It seems to be this room. So because we had to migrate the site entirely, on a shortened time frame, what we did was we kind of built out this skeleton on the new site. And so what you'll see that's up is the items that people are most likely to use, the ones that get the most hits. But we are filling in the gaps as we go along. So you may see things that aren't there now that will be up there in the next month or two. And a lot of what we're doing is building in a lot of redundancy. So if you're looking for the CAC packet, and in your mind you would find that by going to the committee page and then looking there, then we want that to be there. Or if you, in your mind you would go to the library first, we want it to be there too. So a lot of that redundancy isn't there yet, but it will be. So as you use the site, please let us know of things that are missing or things that could work better, because we want to make sure that it's meeting your needs. And it's pulling up the mobile site. So we're doing a little user testing right now. And then Bob had mentioned the matter of archiving old documents. We produce a lot of documents around here, and so one of our board members had asked how far back those would go. For now, what we're going to do is put up 2 years' worth of data, and if we get requests for things older than that, then we'll respond to that. If we see a big need for things from 4 years ago, then we'll do that. And, of course, anytime that you can't find something you need, you can always email us and we'll send it to you directly. Yes, Vince.
What I found in the past is I try to find different members of different groups, and it was kind of out of date. Who's going to work on keeping those things kind of like within a week or so, or 2 weeks? So
That would be our webmaster. Part of the reason that you may have found that is that as we went through some of these technical difficulties, we had to reload old versions of the site because the current one wasn't available. So you may have gone on there when it was an old version of the site and you got an old list.
But that's really important to have those pieces of information up to date.
Absolutely. Kevin, you had a question?
Yeah. The 2-year issue relative to every 5 years updating the major transportation plans, you'd have to go back 5 years to do that. It seems like it would make sense that if you've got one every 5 years, you at least have one historical document there.
That's a good point. So that 2 year is kind of a rule of thumb for things like old meeting minutes. Okay. And we took our cue there mostly from the city, who also went through this process just recently, and that's how far back they went. But for important documents like that, where people will be referring to them frequently, that will remain up there. And in fact, that's one of the documents that was given priority. So the old regional transportation plan, even though it's further than 2 years back, is up there.
When you get this up and running or whatever, it might be well if you did come in and go through it again for all of us.
You bet.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The last thing from the board was that the STAC, the State Transportation Advisory Committee, like we're the CAC, and we have a TAC, and the state has a TAC, noted the addition of shoulder toll lanes on I-70 from Empire to the Eisenhower tunnels. Also advised on pending increase of highway transportation funds, which you've probably been reading about in the newspaper. But it would be interesting to hear how that first weekend, because it was it was last weekend, wasn't it, where they first opened the toll lanes?
It was the weekend before Christmas.
The weekend before. It'd be interesting to hear how that went. What I'd like to know is how they're determining when somebody pays $30 and when somebody pays $3.
Based on time?
Time?
Yeah, we've got an express toll account, and they send it out as part of their newsletter with all of the information, and it's time and volume. So the fee you pay is based on the time you enter the zone, the rates in effect at that time. The rates may change while you're in the zone. You will only, yes. So if you go in at one, but you will pay the rate that was in effect at the time you enter the zone. This is what they claim. I am only repeating the propaganda.
Wow.
My son went
Vince?
through it, and he said that he went through and it was $3. And it's got a sign up there, I guess, and it says $3. And I guess if you go through there, you're good for $3 for the whole thing. But it can go up to $30.
Yeah.
Depending on volume
He
and
said it's
everything.
great.
So.
30.
But that's what Express Toll said is how they're going to do it. So yeah, like Vin said, the sign posts the current rates when you go in, and that's what you'll pay. But if it takes you 20 minutes to traverse it and it changes halfway through, you still pay the lower rate or the higher rate if it goes down. But they are going to basically supposedly be monitoring traffic somehow and constantly adjusting.
So it's not retroactive.
I guess the question is charging, do they do it by license plate or kind of like E470 where?
It's E470. It's part of your Express Toll account.
Okay, so if you have one of those, a transponder kind of thing.
Exactly.
Or a license plate.
If it's, or a license plate, if you don't have that, charges higher rates.
Is there a differential in the price that you pay if you have a license plate versus the Express Toll on that too?
Yes.
How much higher is it if you do the license plate?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
It's a percentage.
Yeah, it's a percentage. So I
Okay.
don't know what that is, yeah.
That's the report. Any questions about the board report? Thank you. The next item is our officer elections. Rachel, is there any comment that you want to make on this? Because we've got the chair of the nominating committee sitting over there.
I am happy to turn it over to the chair of the nominating committee sitting over there.
Thank you. So a little history. It was early in December that the committee met.
after
And that was
Could be elected here pretty
Ellen and myself. We held it in a phone booth and still had some room. And after the rather close, how are you? I asked Ellen to tell me of the 3 people that were on that had volunteered for things, who should fill what jobs. And without hesitation, she told me, and I turned over a piece of paper that I had written down. They were exactly the same. In that, then we spent a couple of minutes trying to determine why we had said that, and it turns out that in a very Navy expression, we thought that the chairman should be the person with the most time in grade. That means the people that have been here the longest. And
You're
that's-
old, so that's why you.
So that was the reason for it. Then we spent the next 15 minutes talking Navy things. But one of the things that you'll see the names on the list. Jen had obviously been in the committee the longest. And we also thought it was an opportune time that a woman chair of the committee, because it's been a lot of old guys for a long time. And
Now, that's not what Donald Trump thinks.
He didn't show up for the meeting.
And that's a very good thing.
So the names you see are, in fact, the recommendation. They're not more than that, and we proposed that proposed it to the committee, the chairman, the first vice chairman.
So that is the report of the nominating committee. Are there any nominations from the floor? There being none, could I have a motion, please?
Close the nominations?
And a second to that?
Second.
Those in favor of those to be elected to the positions to which they're being elected, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, none.
Move over.
I think it's January. Okay, the next item on the agenda is membership appointments. And I guess you're going to do that, huh? Rachel? Do you have Ray Burgess on there too then?
No, I do not.
Okay. Let me do it.
Okay.
Hannah, welcome. And Ray Burgess is not here today. He will be the Woodland Park representative. Hannah, can you just tell us a little about your background?
Oh, sure. I've been in Colorado Springs for about 11 years and have been a small business owner, worked in many capacities in the small business community, and co-founded Epicentral Co-working, which is downtown, and worked with a lot of entrepreneurs in the community. I chair the board of Downtown Partnerships, so I've been involved in downtown for many years. and recently joined the staff of the Regional Business Alliance as the Chief Community Development Officer there. So that includes government affairs, business climate, and workforce initiatives for the organization. And so I was on the board of the Regional Business Alliance for 2 years prior.
And
Thank you.
Dirk Draper sent in the letter recommending Hannah. We have the authority from the Woodland Park City Council approving Ray Burgess. So what we need to do is approve both of those memberships on this committee. So could we have a motion that says such?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, none. Thank you, Al and Ellen, for your work on the nominating committee. Yep. Appreciate it. Tip number 9. Scott?
Good afternoon, everybody. This is just, tip number 9 is
You
on
are
here.
tipsy.
I'm very tipsy, yeah. It's the holiday times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. This amendment was processed as an administrative amendment, and it was signed off by the Director of Transportation for PPACG on December 7th. This change adds $25,000 in state RPP funding to the US 24 West Corridor project that's being performed by a partnership between the Coalition for the Upper South Platte River as well as CDOT. Processing of this enables the project to move forward. It fills a gap of where the project was running short. So this is just information to let you know that the change was made to the tip and no action. Our motion is required, our recommendation by the committee. So
Information received. Any questions of Scott? I have one. The 309,000.
yeah,
Is that going to come in on another tip or what?
we're awaiting additional information from CDOT on that one, so that was tabled. It's referenced in the staff memo, and we will be re-exploring that in the very near future.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Tip number 10.
And it's the tipsy-turvy times here. This is a formal amendment, and this is just a minor modification to a scope for the 2015 FASTER Award to Mountain Metro Transit. The original scope said replace 3 fixed route vehicles, and the request by Mountain Metro Transit was to modify that to say just replace
Two.
yeah, replace up to, yes. So, and that the rationale behind that was that the award was around $750,000, $750,000. Vehicles themselves cost about $450,000, so you're not going to be able to purchase 3 vehicles with the award. So, minor modification. As the staff report points out, the reason why this was a formal amendment and not a general administrative modification was for the fact that regulations require that any changes to scope in the TIP requires a formal amendment. We request, staff recommends approval. TAC also recommended approval. We request your recommendation for approval to the board, and that's about it.
Brian, this cuts your investment from 3 to 2, basically, doesn't it? 1.5.
Good afternoon. Well, we have other sources of money for vehicles, so we'll take this to purchase as much as we can with those funds, and then we'll use other funds to supplement what is needed for that third vehicle. But as Scott said, the new buses that we just received cost $440,000. So it's just a very minor wording change,
Okay.
but it had to be processed this way.
But you're getting 875
Right.
here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Could I have a motion, please? A motion here. Second here. Any discussion? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None? All right. Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
I guess you're still up there.
Yeah. It's a very long dance today, that's to say the least. The next item on the agenda is just, again, information only. This is the 2015 report of federal obligations for the region. This report is required by FHWA and federal law that we post this. We provide you with information with regards to how much money was spent in the region, where it was spent, and how it was spent. The overall for the region for just transportation funds, road funds, was approximately $27.7 million was spent in the region this past year for projects. That was comprised of, I have the wrong glasses on. All right. That comprised of approximately, where is the rest of that? Yeah. Trying to find the right, am I looking at the right thing? I believe it was 49 projects for the region. And of that money invested, approximately $1.2 million was invested in non-motorized trail type projects, so trails and pedestrian access and that sort. An additional $40,000 in federal transit authority 5304 funding was invested in the region. Additional information regarding transit will be provided at a later date, and that would be incorporate FTA funds such as 5303, 5307, 5309, 5310, et cetera. And that information, we've been notified that it will be provided at a later date. At that time, we'll add it to the report, and we can give you an update if you so desire.
There's 2 pages, two attached pages. Is that what we're looking for?
There's 2 attachments. The first attachment will be there's a brief summary of what was done. First one. Second one is attachments from DOT, and it gives you 2 things. One is advanced construction. The other one is obligation. The obligation part is what we are focusing on, what we're concerned with, and those are the dollars that are expended throughout within the region for the FY15.
Scott, I was a little confused. In the summary report,
Yeah.
Under regional obligation totals, it says a net total of $27,747,100. I guess that's the right number.
Yeah.
But in your cover, it says a total of $14,079,000.
You know what?
And nothing added up to $27,747. So
That's a typo on mine. I'll have that corrected.
should that be?
Yeah, if you look at the end, what originally happened was I was looking at the if you look at the very last page, it's 27,747,100. So that's a typo on my end. So I'll.
So which one is the correct number?
27,747,100. 87 cents. I don't want to forget that.
No, let's not forget that.
So I apologize. And yes. Providing this information, getting it posted, this is just part of fulfilling our federal obligations for information to have it available for anybody if you're looking for where the money went.
Just a quick question. These are some of the projects, some of them look wildly familiar, but that have not even started yet.
Yes, that's correct. They've got the paperwork in, they've been given the commitment to pay. Doesn't necessarily mean that they've started the project yet.
Now, does this fall under the category of, to Jen's point, that we continue to monitor these projects? Referring back to, I think it was a couple of months ago, we talked about projects that hadn't started 3 years ago or something.
Correct.
All of that.
Correct.
So
This is
you all are going to be monitoring these, what do we look for, semi-annually?
biannually, twice a year. And this is kind of tightening it, bringing it a little tighter together. In the next month or so, we'll be bringing forward update of projects that are programmed for this fiscal year, and just to update, just to gauge where they are in the process. So, and at least understand if they've obligated those projects. That's just getting your paperwork in, and the FHWA and FTA just giving you a thumbs up.
Has this been sent in yet at this point?
We don't send it anywhere. We just put it on. We just have to have it posted.
But this is attached to
Yes,
it then?
yes.
This is the appendix?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait,
Comments,
let's just
further
say email,
questions?
just notify FHW, hey, it's online if you want to look at it. They check their box, everybody's happy when we move forward.
Probably a lot of man hours that went to work on it. I mean,
For you?
Sure.
Just so that I understand, if you go across the top, I understand project name. PPR?
That
Is this
would be
Pikes Peak or something?
Transportation Planning Area, region, yeah.
PPR? Region.
Yeah.
STIPWBS?
STIP, that would be the State Transportation Improvement Program.
WIBS? WBS?
Breakdown structure?
Yeah. There's probably some number, okay.
Yeah.
And then some of them don't have the tip in here, but this is a tip. The tip is not written in the projects. Should they be there? Maybe not. Something like 306E.
Oh, TIP, that's the TIP project number. And some of the TIP projects the existing projects don't have assigned numbers, or they weren't transmitted at the time when the information was added. So it's basically in our TIP, like 13-24 would be FY13 was when the project was programmed, and it was the 24th project in the line.
ADVC construction?
That's advanced construction.
That means that's spent already?
That's money that is advanced to expedite movement of those projects forward.
And the two advanced construction obligations should be total to the project amount? No?
Well, the advanced construction is money that is, they're moving the project, advancing the project forward, so they're advancing the cash to it, or they're approving the cash. The obligation is actually the full obligation of what they've requested, or what the value of that project is.
So obligation's the total value of the project. The advanced construction's the amount of money that's already been pushed forward to start work on the project.
So like one of these projects has $300,000 advance, but no obligation.
Yeah, that means they haven't spent anything, but they've advanced the money for the project to move forward.
It's clear. Okay. It's okay.
That means they haven't done anything, but the money's waiting in the pot.
It's shovel ready.
Uh-huh.
You know what, Scott, just,
You'll pick this stuff up quickly.
You just haven't been around long enough.
Yeah.
you can stick those in next
Yeah.
time out.
Not a problem. We'll make sure we'll do a little, not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, you look at it sometimes and just run through it, and you don't even, because you deal with it, Frank.
Jacqueline, it'd be a good thing to give, next meeting, to give everybody a fresh list of the acronyms, too, that we have.
Okay. And I'll go through what he just presented.
Hey, Jacqueline, I'll forward that to you. I'll get that put together for you.
Any other questions? Okay. Next, Scott.
The next item is, again, information only. We have just recently, as most of you here have participated in the 2017 through 2022 TIP process. We have received the applications back. This information is just a short recap of the applications received, funding requested, and project types. We received 19 applications. They varied from road widening and transit and planning studies to pedestrian and road repaving and the sort. The attached list just gives a brief detail of each of the projects by applicant or sponsor. It just gives a brief little rundown of what it is, what they're requesting, the type of project, the funding year that they've requested, the phase. And the phase is construction. It's broken down in 3 types of phases. Construction, PE, which is engineering design, and right-of-way, which would be ROW. And that, breaking it down that way, it might be able to advance some other projects fully funded through construction. Some of them might just be for design work, or right-of-way, or utility movement. So, and then the funding source, which we have 2 funding sources now to play with, which is our STIP and our TAP dollars. And then the funding that is requested for the project, for the specific project from those funding sources, and then the total project cost, which can include, or would include the match and or any additional funding or matching money that they want, that is moving forward to that project. So they might have additional federal funds from, let's say, DOD. That's not, we're just concerned right now with our TIP funding request and making sure that we can fit it all together. So.
2022 is 6 years out.
Mm-hmm.
These figures are in today's dollars?
They're estimated, but they're escalated over
How much
time.
escalation do we factor in?
I would say, was it 3%? I think it was about 3%. Right. Annually.
So the projects are listed at the cost of current. When we select projects, we'll escalate it at the historic rate, which is, I forget if it's 5% or 7%. So we'll have to use that. So that's something that hasn't been done yet, but you see the current cost.
Okay. So these figures are going to change?
Yeah, it will just change depending on when we put the funds, what year the project goes into it. Because we don't know what year the projects, we don't know when they're going to get selected or what year they'll be in. So when we get into, selecting, like it's these projects, and then it's in this year, then we'll escalate the price at that point. If that makes sense.
Even though they were given targets that they could not exceed, is that correct?
They were told no individual entity can request more funds than we have available. Because they used to.
But they were given budgets, or
Correct.
Well,
so they can't exceed the amount that we have for the entire region.
Right, exactly. So if
So
the whole region
everybody's
gets,
submitted for the region.
say again?
Everybody has submitted projects to cover the region, so we're 6 or 7 times over the region.
3 to 5 times, yes.
But each region used to submit for the entire pot and then some. is
The,
what
the,
you're
re-
saying.
the
So they
region
submitted-
itself, all projects submitted. Now, individual sponsors cannot exceed what our total numbers are. If that makes any sense.
Yes, and I'll give you the reason. It sounds logical, but when I got here, Mountain Metro, the transit agency, is part of City of Colorado Springs. They would submit for the full amount. Colorado Springs Parks Department would submit for the full amount. Colorado Springs Public Works Streets Department would submit for the full amount.
Yeah.
So the City of Colorado Springs would submit for 3 times more than the entire region has.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we can't do that anymore.
So
They have to come in within our total budget. So nobody can win more than 100%.
Scott,
Yeah.
what happens to this next?
Well, we're getting ready to start the scoring process, and as we move forward with the scoring process, we'll keep you updated, and we'll go through that, and we'll bring you the scores, Projects, we'll do, rank the projects based on the scores, and then we'll bring them forward and for both the project sponsors through the CAC, through you guys, and then to the board. And then my understanding of what's been done in the past is that then we go back after we get comments from everybody, and then we rescore again, and then we bring the final scores to you. We hope to have that done no later than by the, I think it's the April meeting. And once they're selected, then we can move forward and get the final tip adopted or move forward for adoption by no later than June.
Okay.
Scott, you will, when you're talking about going through these and stuff, you will have the cost benefit analysis that you had on?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, well.
I just want to add one thing on here. If you look at the top, there's a 30th Street Road Improvement and Safety, Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs has already reached out to the West Side neighborhood, and we basically, the neighborhood's going to be writing a letter of endorsement for that project. So I'm not sure about the other governments or the other areas, but I know that the traffic engineering has been approaching out to minimize any type of public response or something. Basically, it's all been favorable.
Sure.
So I just want to compliment the city of Colorado Springs on that.
And we encouraged everybody to reach out and request if they have letters of support from community groups. That we local governments, everything, we requested that those items be submitted with that to show that the projects were favorable and that the people were seeking to get them done.
So I'll take that to Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and provide that information to Kono to get out so other neighborhoods can be involved in looking at this too.
Yeah. Be great.
Michelle, you had a question?
Monument submitted a project, but there's absolutely no funding.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what happened with that Monument came? They had a number of they have a number of new staff there.
They do.
And we provided them an extension to. I told them just to make sure they got something in. We came back. I met with them last week. Actually, this morning or today, we've got their application for this project that needs to be filled in. And again, just moving forward, we have some additional questions. And again, as we review them, if we see we have questions on our behalf, or we find things that are incomplete or need additional information, we'll be reaching back out to the sponsors and asking for that additional information. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Sure.
Craig?
Good afternoon, Craig Casper, Transportation Director. The first item we have is we got a 5-year federal reauthorization.
Awesome.
It is awesome. Unfortunately, it didn't do many things, one of which is increase transportation-related funding sources. It uses some offsets from the Federal Reserve System, and the offsets go out 10 years. So they're taking money from 10 years and putting it into the 5 years, and it's money not related to transportation. It doesn't actually increase funding levels. They say it increases slightly, just right around 1%. As you just heard earlier, our actual cost inflation from year to year is somewhere between 5 and 7%. So the value that we're getting is actually decreasing every year. So that's just the reality. There also played a lot of games in the legislation. One of them was it says, hey, we're increasing the funding to metropolitan planning organizations from 50% to 55% in this funding category. Great. But in another place, they reduced the pie size that is possible to take it so that it more than makes it up. So our actually funding is at best, we're going to hold it level. We're actually likely to see a decrease. But phrase it makes it seem like, hey, more money. And some of that goes into the conference committee, had 13 members. from the House and 10 members from the Senate. 10 of those members were from rural areas. 3 were from urban areas. 75% of our population are in urban areas. 3 of the 13 House reps were from urban areas. So where the benefit came in FAST is to rural areas, strangely. And the 3 urban areas that were represented are Rochester, New York, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Modesto, California. Not your bigger urban areas. So, the legislation is a reflection of that.
Okay.
It's nice sausage.
Yep. One of my favorite things, see if I can find it, in the description of the benefits of the program to Colorado, I think it's the last attachment. It's the one that, the benefits to Colorado, and I've got it highlighted because I found it hilarious. One of the projects in the long-term benefits to Colorado, I-25 in Fillmore. Actually, I-25 in Fillmore was paid for completely in 2014. No, not a single penny of this 2016 money will sniff the Fillmore interchange. But it's listed as one of the primary benefits to Colorado. I just had to point that out. It's just funny to me.
At least it wasn't rural.
Exactly. So, the good news is that we won't have to cut any projects based on the actual adoption. There's the funding that we were using. We'll be able to spread over to make all the projects that are currently in our TIP stay in our TIP. So, nothing will have to be cut.
One question, when I was looking at the good, authorization for passenger rail and surface authorization for the first time,
Yeah.
is that going to take away from roads by putting in this fast rail that a lot of people don't want?
Well, that's Amtrak, and Amtrak has always been separate legislation, and now Amtrak is put in with the rest of transportation. So that's primarily what it is Amtrak.
But it's not going to take away from roads in that.
It shouldn't this time. We'll see how they treat it next time, because cutting Amtrak is always something that a lot of is always a point of discussion.
Just seems like when they load that in there, somebody's going to lose.
Well, they also brought the funding that came with it this time. What may happen with the next authorizations, are speculation, because everybody speculates, is that funding source will then be, instead of funding Amtrak, let's do something else with it. Because that funding is going to be, with this, is integrated with everything else.
Roads will suffer eventually, maybe.
Yeah, so it brought it in. We'll see what happens with the next legislation in 5 years. Questions on FAST, but
It would appear that they've really kicked the ball down the road relating to the Highway Trust Fund.
yes. I think I put it in the memo that in 2021, the first year after this bill, the shortage is, they're $24 billion short of transportation funding. Immediately, the first year after this bill expires, they need to find $24 billion from somewhere.
Can we take it from Iran?
So it's it's going to be a wall at when this bill expires.
Greg, I want to thank you for telling me who made up that committee, because when I read the good, bad, and ugly, I'm going, who wrote that analysis? And I went online and found out it's predominantly a lot of the large urban
areas,
counties and metro areas that put this together.
Yep.
So thank you for doing that.
Well, and it turns out, the discussion is, it turns out there is a urban-rural battle for transportation funds, except that a lot of the urban areas don't know it. So, the conference committee was packed with rural people this time, so.
Who appointed them? Who appointed them? How was that selected?
I assume the Speaker of the House. I mean,
Probably Boehner.
yeah.
It's probably Boehner for this one.
So.
I really appreciated the attached analysis.
Yeah, me too.
I certainly don't want to look at the bill. So this was extremely helpful.
This is a qualitative question, too. Based on everything I know, was this all they could kind of get through, given the current makeup of the...
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm glad they got this through, but it's not, The more we read into it also, there's another one they put in there, they sort of gloss over. Actually, under the FAST Act, if you look at this page, it's the fifth bullet down, increases transparency by requiring the Department of Transportation to provide project-level information to Congress. Who do you think is going to actually provide that information? The project sponsors. So, we just went through project applications that were applied for. Based on the new requirements that we're starting to see in FAST, the sponsors, Green Mountain Falls, Woodland Park, they're never going to apply for projects because the amount of reporting that's required now is beyond the capabilities of their staff. So they're never going to apply for projects again.
Nice.
So, but the good news is it's going to be more transparent. You'll be able to see every project that got federal money. You'll be able to see a detailed description of it and how it achieved a whole bunch of the goals, air quality, congestion, stormwater, a whole bunch of things. So, but that's got to come from somewhere.
I also wondered, with the transfer being made from the Fed, what that impact is going to be on the monetary policy of the Fed. I mean,
2%, it's a 2% change
away
already
from monetary policy.
Yep.
Just crazy.
Yep. Any other questions?
All right. Major investment project list.
Okay. CDOT is putting together their 10-year they call it major investment project list. It's a list of the projects that $8.5 billion worth of projects that they would like to fund in the next 10 years. I attached the commission memo and then their draft priority project list, and I highlighted in CDOT's list the ones that are in the Pikes Peak area. And then I attached the PPACG board adopted priority list, and you'll notice that there are some differences there. In talking to CDOT, they just emphasized that the initial list was their draft list, and they were open to refining it. When I asked about refining the dollar value, given that we're 14% of the population, provide at least 13% of the funds for the state, why do we have 2% of the projects? They said they'd get back to me.
Another question for you, Craig. When I'm looking at this, funding needed by CDOT region, we're Region 2, correct?
Yes, we are Region 2.
Why are we the only region that didn't get bumped up like all the others?
I think it's because our Region 2 director has been on medical leave during this process. Honestly. So.
Has our state highway commissioner commented on your question?
I have not had a conversation with our commissioner since his first meeting here. So.
Dollar figures are all millions.
Yes. Sorry, I should have put that in there.
Those are 2015 dollars.
Yes, I think exactly 20 millions of 2015. I need to put that on my table. So $2015. Okay.
Craig, this is part of that, but it applies to it. The rail system that we have going from Denver down to Pueblo and Trinidad is one line.
Owned by two companies, BNSF and.
Right.
Yep.
We have one interstate that goes down between the two, essentially. I was reading in the freight plan that the current level of service congestion in that freight line is D right now, and they figure it's going to go to F in 2030. At that point, it means that we're going to have, if it were a road, it would be just back-to-back traffic, and that's going to be the same kind of thing. So it's going to be congested, which means that the freight will go on the road to get north and south down to where most of it is going down to Texas right now. A lot of it is 70-some% is coal. Have they looked at, bypass?
At least two things. They have looked at a bypass. The rail companies have no interest in funding that. Another point is, if you look at the assumptions that go into their study, they assume that the use of coal for power plants will continue to grow at the historic rate. And most of those coal plants are in Texas. That use of coal in power generation is actually likely peaked and will start declining. So that's one of their fundamental, almost laws, but that's an assumption that I wouldn't necessarily buy into. So.
But anyway,
Yeah.
That's something that ties together. We just look at, vehicular traffic.
Yep.
There's other things that are factors as well.
And, there's the coal companies, I sat in on development of the freight plan and the earlier bypass study. The train companies have no interest at all in relocating their lines because it's owned by two companies. The relationship, the complexity of the relationship is so dense that they're not sure which company would come out ahead in a relocation, and so they don't want to do anything.
Then also we have the hazardous waste is coming by rail.
Yep.
We have or by I-25, one of the two. If they were to move it out, you've got an area that
Yep.
They can have faster traffic in both vehicular as well as freight.
It's faster traffic, but the benefit cost analysis, the cost of building and maintaining that additional infrastructure isn't that high. Actually, it's why the rail companies don't have much interest. It keeps it about the same benefit cost ratio as they have now. So
I guess the last thing is we don't have a bypass, and every larger city has a bypass.
Yep.
It's time to make that shift out.
that,
And it would seem like
we've actually designed 3 bypass routes. The first one's called Union Boulevard. Second one is called Academy, and the third one's called Powers.
Yep.
Oh, I'm serious.
Not like
So.
Anyway, I don't know where that starts, but I think it would benefit, our community greatly if something like that were to happen.
It's part of the long-range planning process. So
It's not in here.
it did because it didn't work out. It doesn't work out.
So information about BNFS, I got to visit them up in Montana. They're actually increasing capacity for dual lanes, like what you're saying, so they don't have to do pull-offs, but only where they own it 100%. That's mostly east and west from Seattle to, I think, North Dakota area.
Something like that.
And where they have the cross aspect here is where they have a lot of the issues of who pays for it. It's like a joint project with the military. Everybody wants it, no one wants to pay for it.
So what we're hoping is in the next month or 3 that CDOT refines their priority list to be more reflective of PPACG's board's adopted priority list. But we'll be keeping you abreast of that as it happens.
Craig, what is the purpose of the beige coloring here on that last?
Those were the projects that are not included in our fiscally constrained plan, and the board, when they adopted the priority list, said, don't do these projects before the beige ones were done.
Okay. The CAC's recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are to be done after the priority list. So, the A through, or E, I should actually change the references. But, the ones that are not shaded would be the ones that would be done first. So those would be the ones that we would like to see reflected in CDOT's priority list.
Thank you. Any other questions for Craig?
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Yep. Let's see. Does anybody have any special items that they would like on the agenda for Jen's first meeting?
Did we get any update from the Water Quality Management Committee? We deferred, waiting for them. Did we ever hear anything? Did they meet?
They're going to be meeting on the 5th of January.
Okay.
To re-review that site application, and then it will not go to the board in January. It will go to you at your January meeting.
Okay. So that will need to be on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
And the formal appointment of the bylaw review task force.
Well, I would say, certainly think about that in the first quarter. member announcements of any kind? Vince?
I talked a couple of times about that electronic town hall. I talked to Dave Munger at Kono, and this may be a new home for that program. I think it'll fit very nicely within the Kono mission. So anyway, it's in discussion there. I think here we don't have the funding or the manpower to kind of work that, but Kono may take it on, and I think that might be a nice home for it.
You know, Courtney sent out a pretty good email to some of us, and it was there's a model out there electronically and
Well,
connected.
There's a bunch of different kinds of things. This is specifically handling big issues. I think hers was talking about more community discussions.
Community, yes.
You know, the lower level discussions, and this would be more in the higher level
Yeah.
issues.
Any other announcements? Let me just take a little time. I've written this down to say it because whenever you want to say thank you to people, you usually leave somebody out, and I still may do it. But I'd just like to thank you all for your collective efforts this year. Notably, your interest in what we do, your discernment over the issues that we have faced, your thoroughness in that discernment, and your willingness to question process when the moment called for the CAC to do so. And that last item was one of them that we made a difference on when it went to the board. In my reporting to the board, I was never disappointed in the positions that we took as a CAC on issues, and the board respected with their actions the position the CAC had put forward. And a word for all the very capable support given us by Jacqueline. Anybody that moves into these officer positions gains a great appreciation for what Jacqueline does. Always willing, capable, and thorough in her service to the CAC, and thank you. You're much appreciated. I would thank Rob and Rachel and Craig and the extended staff beyond that for the interest in the CAC and the workshops that we had this year. We did a lot of explaining of what things were about, and I think we're pretty prepared to hit the ground running in 2016, and certainly wish Jen the best in your term. Thank you all.
Thank you to the current 2015 board for their service collectively. We're grateful.
Well done.
We're out of here early, which is very nice. We're adjourned.